Hunting for mushrooms. I was one of the audience members in your Tampa workshop, where a curious small thing occurred while we did the exchange of articles. My wife and I switched our belongings with people we did not know, and my partner was a Chinese woman. She gave me her bracelet, and in the exercise I kept thinking of mushrooms. How silly, I had thought. She had envisioned a perfect scene from a family farm we owned in Pennsylvania, and all I could come up with was mushrooms. It turned out that she was an avid mushroom hunter. Her father-in-law, who sat next to her, had given her a mushroom kit, and she was feeling very annoyed with herself that she had not utilized it yet. Dave, be it celery or mushrooms, the important part is the exchange of knowledge, memories, and experiences through the flow of energy. Once we let down the veil of our conscious minds, we allow this flow to occur. We become aware that we are connected and that we know so much about each other. It is difficult to be prejudiced or violent when you can so clearly see and feel the energetic bonds that unite us all. In his book The Hidden Messages in Water, Dr. Masaru Emoto demonstrated how words, too, can transmit this energy flow and consequently influence the molecular structure of water. Marilyn and her mother also witnessed firsthand the transformative power of words and books. Their story, next, shows what happens when we read with our spiritual eyes. Reading between the lines. Near the end of her life, my mother could no longer read regular-sized print books, only those in large print. At that time, I had a copy of your book Many Lives, Many Masters in regular-sized print. One day, we were sitting together on the sofa, and I was finishing reading your book, one of my favorites. She took it from me and started to turn the pages. She had never done anything like this before. Because I knew that the print was too small for her to see, I asked if she would like me to read it to her. No, she replied, I can read it myself. I knew that she couldn't, but I sat there and watched her go slowly through your book, looking at each page carefully. Finally, she reached the end and returned it to me. She had a beautiful look of peace on her face. I knew that she had read your book simply by turning the pages. And I had the distinct feeling that she knew that I knew. It was a moment of wonderful connection between my mother and me. Marilyn Calabresi. There is an energy in books, one that often transcends the print. Sometimes, when I autograph one of my own, I have the conscious thought of putting my energy into it along with my name. Marilyn's energy was in her book, and perhaps her mother could feel that as well. Whatever the mechanism, a beautiful connection ensued. Amy writes about another moment of connection between a child and a parent, this time with my son, Jordan, and his own son. Heroes. My brother, Jordan, tells a story of driving in a car one sunny afternoon near his home in Philadelphia. His son, Travis, who was 7 years old at the time, was sitting in the back seat. They were leaving a busy shopping center that had only one exit lane and a street light at its end. There were many cars waiting to exit along with them, the traffic was heavy, the line long. While they waited, Travis looked out the window and saw a man standing nearby, collecting money for charity. When he asked Jordan what that was all about, Jordan, seeing the information on the man's vest and signage, replied that the money went to children with cancer. Travis listened, and then he asked if they could give the man $1. Oh, I don't know, Trav, Jordan said non-committally. The thought hadn't really occurred to him. He was, as we all are, accustomed to seeing people really occurred to him. He was, as we all are, accustomed to seeing people collecting money for one cause or another on a daily basis, on the street, on the television, in the mail, and giving to some but not all as request after request piled up. Would $1 really be of much help? Who knew where that money went, anyway? He wasn't even sure he had $1 on him, and to check would have meant unhooking his seat belt, reaching into his pocket, fiddling around and taking everything out, perhaps some change falling onto the floor. It just didn't seem worth the hassle. At a red light with so many people behind them, any delay caused by stopping would surely have resulted in shouting and honking. And, sure enough, at that moment the light turned green and there was nothing more he could do, so he said something like, well, as he began to drive away, thinking nothing else of it. It was only when they had finally left the shopping center and made the difficult merge into 6 lanes of congested traffic that Travis said, "Oh, but Dad, we could be heroes." And so, after the long wait to get onto the street where they now were, there was no other option but to make a U-turn and drive back to the shopping center just to go all the way around again and sit in the traffic again and wait at the light again so that they could, this time, hand the man some money. Looking in the rearview mirror as he drove off, Jordan saw Travis excitedly pumping his little fists in the air and whispering, "Yes. Amy Weiss, to be a hero doesn't require great action and thousands of people. Simple acts of kindness qualify too, and the results of these radiate outward to all of the earth and beyond. Charity and kindness can never be minimized. Everything is energy, and the energy of compassion encompasses all the others. A resonance is established, just like the ringing of a bell that sends a storm of beautiful sound waves into the atmosphere, just like a stone thrown into a pond that sends ripples to the entire shore. Acts of kindness can ripple to the shore of our soul's universe. And, sometimes, children can be our best teachers." Jordan's story is of a special moment while driving in a car with his son, who had an important lesson to teach him. Upon hearing it, I couldn't help but think of a similar experience that I had, one generation ago, when Jordan was the child and I the father driving him. That time, the lesson had been for me. As adults, we tend to forget those beautiful, wise insights into the world, but our children will always be the vehicle for reminding us. I tell the story in my book Through Time into Healing. Several years ago, after a 10-hour day of seeing patients, I was beginning to relax by meditating in a reclining chair in my office. After only a few minutes, already in a deep state without any particular thoughts in my mind, I heard a booming voice inside my head. It was like a telepathic trumpet, and it shook my whole body. "Just love him," the voice thundered. I was instantly wide awake. I knew the message meant Jordan, my son. At this time, he was a typically rebellious teenager, but I had not been thinking about him at all on this day. Perhaps, subconsciously, I was wrestling with how to deal with his behavior. One very early and dark morning a week later, I was driving Jordan to school. I tried to get a conversation going, but he was particularly monosyllabic in his responses to me that day. Jordan was just plain grumpy. I knew I had the choice of being angry or of letting it go. I remembered the message, "Just love him," and I chose the latter. "Jordan, just remember that I love you," I said as I dropped him off at school. To my surprise, he replied, "I love you, too." It was then that I realized that he hadn't been angry or grumpy at all, he just wasn't fully awake yet. My perception of anger had been an illusion. I continued driving into the hospital, about 45 minutes away. As I passed a church, the sun was just rising above the treetops, and a gardener was leisurely mowing the grass. Suddenly I had a feeling of great peace and joy. I felt immensely safe and secure, and the world seemed to be in perfect order. The gardener, the trees, and everything else I could see were luminous and glowing. I could almost see through them, everything had a transparent golden quality. I felt connected to everyone and everything, to the gardener, the trees, the grass, the sky, a squirrel climbing a tree. There was the total absence of fear or anxiety. The future seemed perfectly clear. Perfect. I must have seemed strange to the other rush hour commuters. I felt a kind of detached, universal love for them, too. Even as other drivers cut in front of me, I just waved them in and smiled. I wondered why all these people were rushing so much. Time seemed to stand still and then disappear. I felt incredibly patient. We were here to learn and to love. I could see this so clearly. Nothing else really matters. The luminosity and transparency of objects continued as I drove to the hospital. So did the state of detached loving kindness and great peace and joy. So did the feelings of patience and happiness and interconnectedness with everything else. This state stayed with me as I began my workday. I was unusually intuitive with my patients that morning, especially with 2 new patients I had never seen before. I could perceive light in and around people, everyone seemed to glow. I could really experience how everything in life is connected. I knew with certainty that there was no such thing as danger, no need for fear. Everything was one. Jordan's presence that morning, with our simple connection of love and a more complicated lesson on assumptions, had opened my heart, sparking a completely transcendent experience in me, one that expanded up to the sky, down to the tiny blades of grass, and everywhere in between. Clearly, Soulmate, this is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.